everyone, in this video I would like to present you my new card game, which is called ReWild Iceland. Here you have it as well. It's a small card and tile game for 1 to 4 players. It takes about 10 minutes per person, and it's for ages 8 till 99 years old. Before I explain the game, let me quickly say that I was inspired by this video on YouTube by Mossy Earth about rewilding Iceland, because that's what we're going to do in this game. Now let's dive into the components of the game. You can download everything from boardgamegeek.com. The link is below this video. And the core of the game are the ReWild cards. As you can see, these cards, they consist of 6 zones. Normally they have 4 land zones and 2 water zones. And those zones can contain elements. As you can see, there can be trees, birch, woods. There can be animals as depicted by this fox. There can be moss tiles. The moss is growing around the stones. And there can be flowers on those land zones as well, like these lupine fields which they have in Iceland. And as you can see, the water can also contain fish, salmon, haddock, and anything like that. Now, these are the ReWild cards, but there's more to the game. There are also the objective cards. And here we have one example. It's a clipboard of a polar fox. So in this game, people try to create a habitat for the animal they see on their clipboard, and that will give them points. So for instance, this polar fox will give 2 points per tree built next to animals and flowers. But there's more to it. There are also other components. For instance, here you can see the ReWild tiles. They can alter the landscape, as you can see, but they can also alter the scoring options. And then there is also an overview sheet of all the objectives, so that during the game you can start making the deduction what your opponent is up to. And if you play solo, or if you play this game cooperatively, there are also other tiles like the disaster tiles and 2 builder tokens. All right, let's have a look at ReWild Iceland. Let's have a look at how the game works. In this video, I'll explain the competitive game for 2 to 4 players, but it can also be played cooperatively, or there is also this solitary campaign. Now, let's have a look at the competitive 2-player game. Here we go. So here's the setup for a 2-player competitive game. At the start of the game, every player receives 3 objective cards and chooses one of those cards to discard. So let's say I'll remove the puffin. By the way, before I choose my objectives, I can have a look at my ReWild cards, but just for the example, I'll remove the puffin and I'll keep the reindeer and the haddock. I'm going to create the habitat they like. Now, the reindeer gives me 2 points for every island with animals and trees, and the haddock gives me 1 point per fish in the stream with most fish. So let's go for these 2 goals. Then my opponent also chooses 2 objectives, so let's remove this one. Normally I cannot look at his or her objectives, neither can he or she look at mine, but for the tutorial, of course, I'm doing so. And the opponent scores 2 points for every tree next to flowers and moss, and the oyster catcher will give 2 points for every island with animals and flowers. And then the game can start. Now, here's how the rounds work. On my round, I can choose one of my ReWild cards to build on the tableau, adjacent to or on this randomly picked card. This is Icelandic lava, and this is the place we are going to rewild. I can choose to build one of my cards, but I can also have a look at the tiles and build one of the tiles. But let's say that in this example, I'm going to build, well, what about this card? I like this one because it already has an island with a fox and a tree on it, and it has 2 fish. So if I, for instance, simply put it over here, well, then I have 4 points if the situation stays like that at the end of the game. And so this would already give me 4 points because of the fish on the haddock card. And this card would give me, as it's one island with a fox and a tree on it, it would already give me another 2 points.
Then it's up to my opponent to choose one card. So let's say my opponent picks, well, why not go for this one, for instance? My opponent goes for this card because it has a tree connected to moss already. So if we put it in a clever fashion, we can have the tree connected to the flower. And then we score 2 points with it. And it adds the fox to this island, which already had flowers. So let's say we put it over here, and then you can see this card scores 2 points for the tree and another 2 points for having one island with an animal and a flower on it. Then it's my turn again. Say I go for this card, I build it over here. I don't know why, but I'm just doing so. I build it over here, and there you see what's going on. You can put your cards adjacent to the tableau, or you can also put it on the tableau itself, but there are restrictions. You can only cover up 2 visible tiles or 2 visible zones of any underlying cards. So for instance, here I'm overlapping these 2 visible zones, and here one, so that's okay. 2 visible zones per card. Now let's say that my opponent then plays this card over here. That would work out as well, because only 2 visible zones of this card are covered, 2 visible zones of this card and 1 visible zone of that card. And that way the game goes on. We keep on building cards unless we decide to build tiles. The tiles can alter the landscape, but they can also alter the scoring options. Say I put this x2 over here, it will double everything around it. So for instance, it will double these fish and it will double the islands. It will always double up the thing that is first mentioned in the objectives. So for instance, this x2 or this doubles my 3 fish into 6 fish, giving me 6 points at once. But the downside of building tiles is that it costs me also a turn, and the game ends whenever a player runs out of cards. Whenever that happens, the game is over. The end of the game is triggered. If it's a starting player, the other players still have 1 turn. Otherwise, the game is over and out. And then it's time to count scores, so we can have a look at our stream. I didn't do particularly well for the haddock though. This is one long stream, so I think I combined 1, 2, 3 fish over here, and that's it. So let's say that this card would only give me 3 points, which is not so good, although this one is doubled, so 4 points for this card. It's not particularly spectacular. And as for the fox and the tree, let's have a look at this island. For instance, this is one huge island, which is in fact not so clever because I only gain points per island. So this is one island giving me 2 points, but the island is doubled, so another 4 points. And that's how the game is played. You have a look at your scores, and during the game you can also have a look at the overview of all the objectives in the game. So after a while you may start noticing what your opponent is building towards to, and having that knowledge makes you a stronger player, of course. Now if you don't like that, to let's say block your opponents from time to time, if you don't like that aspect of the game, you can also play the cooperative variant, but that's for another video.
All right, and there you have it. That is everything you need to know to play ReWild Iceland in a competitive way. Now, if you want to print the game yourself, you can find everything on BoardGameGeek.com. And if you like it, please let me know, post something in the comments on BoardGameGeek, or give me a thumbs up. That's really encouraging. Thanks for watching, and have fun planting trees everywhere on your tableau. Bye-bye.